Alright, so today we're going to be installing a subwoofer and amp in the Subaru BRZ. We're going to try and use the factory radio that comes in the 2017 model. And we're also going to be tapping into the factory amp that's located somewhere tucked up in there. So hopefully everything goes smooth today. We're going to be putting in a 12-inch Kenwood sub. And I try to do this as cheap as possible with what I had laying around. So this is a subwoofer and a basic box that I've had forever. And then we have our converter, our amp kit, and a cheapo 600 watt amp. Hopefully this will put out just enough that we need, as well as some speaker wire. So I'm going to install all of this. I'll kind of show everything, do a little time lapse, and try and get it in there today. And hopefully you guys can take something from this and maybe make it easier on yourself when you decide to do it if you go this route. So let's get to it. Alright, so we have everything pulled apart back here to make it a little easier to get to the amp. So here's the factory amp. We've got it all taken down, ready to be messed with. But to start, what I've done is went ahead and got our power wire for that's going to power the amp, ready to be connected to the battery. The firewall grommet that I went through was behind the battery here. There's one right there. It's super easy to access. I just used a Phillips screwdriver to puncture a hole and was able to push most of this through. And then I've got the panels and everything taken off along the sides here and going back. So it's pulled apart, ready to be run through it. So basically you're gonna tuck everything through here. This is the grommet. It just came out real easy, not too hard at all. And we're just gonna run this along the sides here and under the trim, and we're gonna have it come back here to the amp. Alright, so I know I originally said I was going to use this little connector here that turns the speaker wires into a readable RCA. But on this amp, it actually came with an adapter that plugs in right there. And this is it here. I've already run it through. But basically that will do pretty much what this does. So on the amp itself, I already have it plugged in. But on the actual connection, there are... I'll put a picture on it now, but it'll show the colors of the wires and which ones go to what. And so basically with that diagram you can take from the wires that plug into the factory amp. And with these tap splices, I got these from Ace. Basically I was able to tie into or tap into the existing wires that connected to the existing amp and use the wires from that to also run into the new amp. So that allows this amp to continue to power the door and side speakers and whatever else it's connected to, while also giving us the ability to run the new amp for just a subwoofer. So these are definitely a must-have if you're going to do it this way. The size of these are the 22-18, so they're the little bit smaller ones. I had no issues at all. They went in nice and snug as well. So with this adapter, with this, literally this is just a cheap Walmart amp, something to get me by for now, which surprisingly sounds not bad at all. It's doing the job very well. I didn't have to use this little connection. So not all amps are going to obviously have that little adapter that worked perfectly for what I needed it to, but if you are interested in doing it with this amp, I will also include it in the description below. So basically, with that wiring diagram, you can see exactly which one is the positive and negative of each side, and as well as the automatic turn on that will turn on the amp when it comes. Now, you still do have to run a power line like I showed you earlier, because you cannot tap in through the existing amp's power. I just don't think it's going to be enough. So we went ahead and did that, but basically I spliced into it with the tap splices here, got everything ran. So we had the power, we have the turn on, and the speaker wires that run to the sub. Got everything bolted on. ran this little part through the mats here, so it hides it really well. And then basically all I had to do now is plug this in, and it powers on. It works no problem. And yes, I'll do a little test here for you. So I just wanted to clarify things just a little bit, because I know it might come off a little confusing, but basically all you're going to have to do if you want to install a subwoofer with your factory amp without having to run RCA cables from a aftermarket stock head unit, because right now this is just the stock, if it'll focus, head unit. So basically all you're going to do is you're going to go out and you're going to get an amp kit, and you're going to run the power cable from the battery through the back like I showed you earlier, and you're going to have that lined up here. And then you're going to tap into the existing amp's harness, and on that harness you're going to use about 5 wires on it. You're going to use the positive and the negative on the left side and the positive and negative on the right side. Again, there was that picture that I put up that explains that. And then you're also going to have the automatic turn on. I don't know the exact name of this, but there's a wire for that one as well. You're going to tap into those wires with the tap splices. So you're just going to pull what's already there without cutting it completely. So that way you can also run power back to this, or not really back to it, but without messing up what it's already doing. So you don't have to get an extra harness. You don't have to reroute the speaker wires back from the new amp back to it. You're literally just tapping into it. And then once you tap into it, you're going to have your connection here that will connect to your amp, and that will have the signal for your new amp. And then you're going to plug that adapter, or you're going to plug the harness back into its slots, and that's it. That's literally all you have to do. I was able to do it with this amp without having to use one of these converters here. So once you have your power, you plug your power in, you're going to have your ground that you connect to a bolt. I was able to just tap straight into the bare metal, have no issues with that. So you have your ground, your power, and then your automatic turn on, which goes from that harness as well, and then my speaker wires here that go from the amp to the subwoofer. And then basically all you're going to do is, these are the wires that we tapped into from the existing amp's harness. This will plug directly into the amp here, and that's what's giving it the signals for everything for it to work properly. So that is just a quick overview of what it takes. Super easy. I got these from Ace Hardware. If your amp doesn't have a adapter piece like this, you can go to Best Buy and get this converter. And other than that, you will need a amp kit and an amp and a subwoofer, obviously, to do this. And so doing this allowed me to keep the stock head unit as well as run a nice subwoofer in the back. So, are there better ways to do this? Absolutely. Was this the best way? Not necessarily. But does it work? Yes. Yes, it works. Now, not sure how long it will last, just because the connections, you never know. But, like I said, as time goes, we'll be able to tell. Now, there is more expensive ways you can do it, but if you're like me, I'm on a budget and was just trying to do whatever I can to make it work, and just get a subwoofer in there, and I can deal with everything else later. But yes, it's a cheaper way to do it. It's not the most ideal way to do it, but does it work? Yes, it absolutely works. While keeping the stock head unit and not having to get an aftermarket one just to run RCA cables. But yes, it'll work, and this is something you guys are wanting to do. You know, I say go for it. This is a cheap way to do it without having to put too much into it. So one thing I wanted to add about this Jensen amp here is, surprisingly, it's not too bad for $59.99 at Walmart. When I was looking at it, I didn't see any adjustment knobs or any sort of any adjustments on the actual amp itself. But then I saw here where it said, you know, control setup and illumination from our smartphone app. So I downloaded the smartphone app, and wow, it actually has quite a lot of functions. Like, you can even change the LEDs on it, which, you know, they're not very bright, so it doesn't really matter anyways. But a lot of the settings on here you can change. So you can see, I'll put the app on the screen now so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But tons of adjustability from this tiny, cheap little Walmart app. So there you go, guys. There it is. So it's bright out here. So hopefully you guys are able to take something from this. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully this will give you some insight on what you can do to get a subwoofer in your stock head unit in the BRZ. Overall, it was a pretty simple install. It did take a little bit of persuasion here and there in some parts just to get it to go in properly. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, any comments, if you need some help with it, hopefully I can just drop a comment and hopefully I can help you guys out and answer those for you. But yeah, other than that, appreciate you guys watching, and until next time.